Okay, so Boker Tov to everybody. Good morning. As we continue our Sunday morning Torah learning, there's nothing better than starting the week with some beautiful Torah learning. I already said the blessing on the water, so everybody l'chaim. It's supposed to be coffee, but I already had coffee, so there's water in here. So, as I put into the header that answer these 4 questions and you're guaranteed to be a better person. So some of you might have guessed that this is a class, as we've been doing, other than last week Sunday because of Mother's Day, we've been doing a class on Pirkei Avos, on ethics of the fathers. And so this week, the last class we had was on chapter 3, Pirkei. This week we are continuing and we will be giving class on Perek Daled, the first chapter of Pirkei Avot. And the first Mishnah is a fairly known Mishnah. If you don't know the entire Mishnah, you might know some of the statements in the Mishnah. It's a very beautiful and very powerful Mishnah, which means a little section of this week's chapter. It's called a Mishnah. And so let's begin. Let's start learning. And hopefully we will all become better people as we learn this Mishnah together. If you have questions, you could post it over here as I'm teaching. Hopefully I'll be able to see it. Okay, Ben Zoma Omer. Ben Zoma is the first Mishnah, Mishnah Aleph in chapter 4, and Ben Zoma Omer, Ben Zoma says the following. Now, just a little bit of background, so we should know who Ben Zoma was, and that will even give us a little better appreciation, deeper appreciation of what he is about to tell us. So that's Ben Zoma. Who was Ben Zoma? So Ben Zoma, I'm using here the Pirkei Avot from a commentary anthologized from classic commentaries and Hasidic masters. It's the Kahot English Ethics of the Fathers, and it's really a wonderful compilation of commentaries on ethics of the fathers on Pirkei Avot. So who was Ben Zoma? Ben Zoma means the son of Zoma. So the first question that comes up is, why is he called Ben Zoma? What was his name? What is Ben Zoma, the son of Zoma? So there are various answers, 2 known answers given to this question. One answer is that he became very known as a great scholar even before he grew up, so to speak, even before he became older, even just as a young prodigy. And at that point, everybody just knew him as the son of Zoma because he was still a young child or a young lad. That's one answer given. Another answer given is that in that time period, there were 4 different Shimons. His name was actually Shimon ben Zoma. Shimon, Simon. So because during his time there were 4 different great sages by the name of Shimon. There was Shimon ben Nanos, there was Shimon HaTeimoni, there was Shimon ben Azai, another great of the sages, and there was Ben Zoma. So since there were 4 with the same name, they basically called each one of them by their father's name. It reminds me of both my wife and my daughter. My wife's name is Chana or Chani. Chana was the name of the Rebbe's mother, and a large percent of her class, her age group, were given this name to name their girls after a righteous woman, the Rebbe's mother. And my daughter, Chaya Mushka was named after the Rebbe's wife after she passed away. And both of these, both my wife and my daughter, have multiple children, multiple classmates with the same name. So if you would say Chaya, please answer, you would get half the class answering. So I could relate to this why he was called Ben Zoma, and therefore all the Chayas had to be given a name like Chaya F for Chaya Friedman, or Chaya D for Chaya Denberg, her first cousin, etc. So here we go. So let's go move on a little further. And I want to give another general introduction, as I always do. This class is not a 5-minute, quick one. This is relax, Sunday morning, sit down and study Torah, and give it your relaxed time. It's not just jumping from one thing to the next meme that you're getting on social media. We're learning and letting it sink in, and hopefully we'll do so successfully. Okay. Now the Mishnah says, Ben Zoma Omer Ben Zoma says. So he asks four questions, and these four questions, I believe that if you answer these four questions, especially, and that's what we're going to do this in this class, as you contrast these questions or the answer to these questions to what society might answer and how Ben Zoma answers. In other words, if I ask you the first question, and you'll say, and I'll first point out how society will probably answer this question, or the general culture, and then I'll tell you how Ben Zoma answers this question, so that you can appreciate his answer even better. Ben Zoma himself, the Talmud tells us, was one of the four sages that entered into a level that is called Nichnesu Pardes. They entered into a Kabbalistic, spiritual, holy plane that was beyond and above where anybody could enter. He was one of four, which tells us how great and how spiritual he was. And therefore we will even more appreciate the answer that he gives us to his questions. Okay, first and foremost, let's get to it. Ezehu Chacham. His first question that Ben Zoma asks is, who is wise? Who is wise? Who is smart? Who is wise? So let's analyze that question. Ezehu Chacham. So commentaries point out that Ezehu Chacham, when he asks the question, his question is not just who is wise, because for that you might give a simple answer. You might. As I'll stress in a moment, you might give a simple answer. You know who's wise? Who's wise? Who gets hundreds? Who got straight A's? Who's wise? Why is that so complicated? And therefore, commentaries point out, Ezel Chacham means who is praiseworthy, who is worth it to be praised for his wisdom. Just being wise. Let's say you were given a gift. God gave you a good brain. That doesn't mean you necessarily deserve a thank you. That's a gift you got. You're talented, you have a talent, God gave you wisdom. Ezel Chacham, some commentaries point out, what is the deeper meaning of his question is who deserves to be praised for their wisdom. To give an example, Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon says that, we say this every single night in the Shalom Aleichem. We say Eshet Chayil, we praise a woman of valor, and towards the end, when we get the letter Shin, we say Sheker Achein, it's a lie, it's false, is chayin, is grace, the hevel ayofi, and beauty is hevel, is empty, is garnished, is nothing. Isha yiras Hashem, a woman who fears God, he tisalo shall be praised. So if you have beauty, or you have just nice charm, that, says King Solomon, is empty, it's shallow. Right? As the saying goes, beauty is skin deep. Isha yiras Hashem, if you praise God, he tesalo. But commentaries take this a step further, and they say the following. They say that Isha yiras Hashem he tesalo goes also on the first part of this verse, meaning that a woman, if she fears God, then her beauty and her charm is praiseworthy. No, it's not that King Solomon is saying that beauty is nothing. Beauty is a quality that God has given you, and it can be used in very, very special ways. But if you have fear of God as an underlying foundation, then beauty and charming and grace is something that is praiseworthy and of value and of virtue, etc. So the same thing over here, Ezer Chacham, if you use your wisdom in ways that bring you closer to God, they bring you closer to your mission, to your purpose, that's a wisdom that is worthy of bragging about, so to speak. Okay, let's go further, because there's so much we could talk over here, and we have, at the end of the day, limited time, so let's go a little further. So he says, Ezel Chacham, who is wise? I want to point out another point also. Ezel Chacham, who is wise, that this also could possibly say that Ezel Chacham could also highlight the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And I keep on mentioning this point. I've heard this from Dennis Prager, but from others as well, that there's a difference between wisdom and knowledge. And we see this very much today in the pandemic. There are a lot of people who might have knowledge. I was talking to someone the other day about a doctor, fine man, not important names, of course. I said he might have a lot of knowledge, but I don't necessarily think that he necessarily has a lot of wisdom. He's a good doctor, clinician, clinic-wise. But if you want to ask him advice, so we see this again today in terms of the advice that we're getting from health experts and so on. Some of them are wise, but some of them just have knowledge. And if you just have knowledge, that doesn't mean that you're the person that I have to make all my decisions based on your knowledge, because it takes more than just knowledge to make a wise decision. So Ezel Chacham could also mean not just who has knowledge, but who is wise. And here the Mishnah says like this: Haloi made mikol adam. I want to contrast this. One who learns from every single person. I want to contrast this, based, as I said before, based on the public answer, or the common culture answer. Ezel Chacham, who's wise, or the answer would be someone, as I said before, has a lot of knowledge. In today's day and age, if perhaps you're a sports star, then your opinion matters so much. If you have $1 billion, your appointment matters so much. Ezel Chacham, somebody who is today in society, many people are considered wise and smart, and their opinions are listened to, and that's not necessarily the case. That might be the common answer of what is Ezel Chacham. Comes Ben Zoyma and says like this: Ezel Chacham, who is what? Yeah, I mean, you might even answer Ezel Chacham, Steve Hawkins, Ezel Chacham, Einstein, and these are good answers. But Ben Zoyma says the other way around. Ben Zoyma says Ezel Chacham, who is wise, Halo made mikol adam, one who learns from every person. So there's the simple explanation of this. Ezel Chacham, who is wise, Haloi made mikol adam. He learns from every single person. But let's analyze this a little deeper. Why is that something of wisdom? One who learns from every single person. So here, there's various explanations to that. First, the first answer to that question is, let's pay attention to the language here. Halo made mikol adam. Halomed means one who learns from every single person, as opposed to one who has studied. As kids, there was always a statement in Yiddish, and whenever I say some Yiddish, give me some thumbs up if you understand and appreciate Yiddish. Ezel Chacham Alovid Kelab. When we were kids, they used to tell us like this: A Talmid Chacham, a scholar, is nicht ein der was hat gelernt, but einer emetzer was lernt. A Talmid Chacham is not one who has learned; he's one that learns. Present tense, because someone who's wise is someone who loves wisdom, who loves knowledge. Someone who loves knowledge is one who is always learning. And this is where we go a little bit back to the introduction. Ben Zoma, who was one of the greatest, wisest scholars, most spiritual scholars of his time, nevertheless tells us that if you're truly a chacham, you're going to want to learn from every and any person. You might say, I'm so wise, or I'm so great, I'm so holy, I'm so fantastic. Comes Ben Zoma and says, you know who's wise? Aloing mikol adam. Why? Because Ben Zoma, talking about a knowledge and a wisdom that brings you closer to God, you appreciate that God does not create junk. God does not create spare parts. So if there's a person that I have come in contact with, there's something that I could learn from that person. Ezel Chacham Haloi made mikol adam, who learns from every single person. Shenemar, as it says, Mikol Melamda Yiskalti Keid Vasecha Sichali, he brings a verse to support this idea. Let's go a bissel weiter. Let's go a little further. Question number 2. Ezel Gibar. Who is one that is simply translated, it is, who is strong? Zeu Giber, who is strong? Let's contrast that again with common culture answer to what strong means. As I said before, let's contrast that. Ezehu Giber, who is strong. What's the common culture answer? When I grew up, it was Mike Tyson. I grew up in the era of Mike Tyson, and he was strong until he bit off someone's ear. Ezehu Giber, you would say Hercules is strong. That's the common culture, would be the answer to that question. I don't know who are the star fighters in today's day and age. I don't really keep up. Comes Ben Zoma and he gives the opposite answer. Ezehu Giboir, who is truly strong. Hakovesh et Yitzray, one who could subdue, one who could control his own Yetzer, his own temptation. The most difficult thing to conquer, what takes the most strength to conquer is yourself, is your own temptations, your own weakness. Ezehu Giber HaKovesh Es Yitzray, one who could control his own weakness, his own drives, his own desire. In fact, I think that this is correct, that bullies and dictators, in terms of a lot greater sense, are those who have a certain inner or certain low self-confidence, and that's why they feel better by controlling others. Ezehu Giber HaKovesh Es Yitzray, you know who's truly strong? One who could control your own self. That's far, far more difficult and a much greater achievement. And he brings up verse from Proverbs. He says, Shenemar, as it says, Tov Erech Hapayim Migiboir, one who is slow to anger is better than the strong man. Umoishel Beruche, and one who could control, who masters his passion, is better than one who conquers a city. So, Ezehu Giber HaKovesh Es Yitzray, his own temptation, that's far more difficult. Question number 3, and this is a known question. This you see this quote all over, and it's very simple, which is why it's so profound. Ezehu Asher, who is wealthy. And again, to contrast this with the common answer out there is Ezehu Asher, who is wealthy. The answer would be Bill Gates. The answer would be I don't know, some Saudi prince. Ezehu Asher, who is wealthy, someone who has who knows what. Comes Ben Zoma and says, Punkt Fakert, he says just the opposite. Ezehu Asher, who is wealthy, Hasameach Bechelko, one who is happy with his lot, one who's content with what they have. And I want to elaborate on this because this is so important, especially now we are living in a time where some of our usual activities, pleasures have been taken away from us. So this statement, Ezehu Asher, who is truly happy, Hasameach Bechelka, is so important. So let me elaborate on this a little bit. In the words of the Mishnah of Ben Zoma, every sentence is exact. Ezehu Asher Hasameach Bechelko. What does Bechelko mean? He is happy with his lot. Hasameach Bechelko, you know how you could come to being happy? Chelko, when you realize and understand that which you are meant to have, you will have. Chelko, your part, that which is destined and that which was given to you by God Almighty, that which you're meant to have, you have. That's why, if you come to recognize that, you will be sameach. The Talmud relates, the Talmud says there are 10 people that were obsessed with getting something that was not theirs. They could not get that which was not theirs because it's not chelko, it's not there meant to be for them. So they couldn't get that which was not theirs, and they even lost that which was theirs. One of the examples the Talmud gives is Haman, Haman HaRasha, the famous villain of Purim. He wanted more and more and more honor, and it was taken away from him. And not only that, the Megillah tells us that his own home was given away and all his possessions. Hine beis Haman lasati lester, the home I gave to Esther and to Mordechai. What does this mean on a deeper level? On a deeper level, this means that if you are obsessed with something you don't have, chances are you're not truly appreciating that which you do have. And if you don't appreciate and value and cherish and enjoy that which you have, do you truly have it? Do you have it? Look around. Look around in your life. There is so much blessing in your life. We're sharing here with a crowd, so there's many different people here listening, but look around. Whether it's good health, whether it's children, whether it's a spouse, whether it's grandchildren, whether it's food on the table, etc., etc. But if you are more obsessed with what you don't have, the car that someone else has, the life that somebody else has, because you see it on social media and they seem to give forth a perfect life. And as experts are saying, most people overwhelmingly do not share their real life on social media. They just share the life they want you to see, and therefore you come to think that your life is less perfect than that person. It's not true. So if you're obsessed with what you don't have, then you don't have that because you can't have it, and you don't have what you have. What does it mean? Not just because it's going to be taken away. You don't have it. You don't appreciate it. I often use the example. I remember seeing my father-in-law passed away, once walking with one of his grandchildren, and I observed that he was walking and he was holding his granddaughter's hand. He's walking down the streets of Brooklyn, and there was such a expression of contentment on his face that he needed nothing else. He was wealthy. He was the wealthiest at that moment. Ezeu Ashir, who is wealthy, asameach bechelko. Incidentally, I want to also share, there's a statement in the Talmud that addresses this question, Ezeu Ashir, and by Rabbi Akiva. This is from Ben Zoma. This is Rabbi Akiva who addressed this question. He gives a different answer. And I want to take here the opportunity to connect the two answers. Ben Zoma, Rabbi Akiva asks the same question, Ezeu Osher. And I'm paraphrasing, hopefully I remember the exact words. He says, Ezeu Osher, who is happy, who is content, who's wealthy. He says, Zeh sheyesh lo isha noah b'maisim tovim. One, what time is it? Okay, one who has a beautiful wife in good deeds. He has a wife that shines in good deeds. That is a wealthy person. And without going into a great arichut, a great detail, perhaps at a different opportunity, the Gemara says, we know that Rabbi Akiva had his wife Rachel, who was an extraordinary woman, and the reason we have Rabbi Akiva today is because of her sacrifice and support. So Rabbi Akiva appreciated how blessed a person is, how wealthy a person who is when he has a spouse like he had. Isha Noah, a wonderful wife, a beautiful wife in good deeds. So that's his answer to who is wealthy. And I want to put them together because one of the greatest blessings of a wonderful wife is one who points out and allows you and directs you to appreciate what you have. And I want to give over here, I know my wife doesn't like when I do this because she's a modest woman, but I want to point out right here in this that that's a blessing that I could relate to because I am so blessed to have a wonderful Rebbetzin who always highlights and points out how wealthy I am. Ezeu Osher. So it goes together. So if you are able to implement what the Mishnah says, if you agree over here what the Mishnah says, Ezeu Osher, who is wealthy, asameach bechelko, one who is happy with their lot, then you are the most blessed person. you're the most blessed person, because once you have that, everything else falls into place. And he brings a verse to support this. Because shenema yegia kapecha ki tochel ve'ashrecha v'tov lach ashrecha b'olam hazeh v'tov lach l'olam haba. This verse itself from King Solomon again has many things we can learn from, but I'm going to skip it in terms of explain. I'm just going to read translation. The verse says the following: Happy are you. When you eat of the labor of your hands, happy are you, and it shall be well with you. Happy are you in this world, and it shall be well with you in the world to come. Without getting into detail, if you go ahead and you implement this approach, you'll be happy in this world, and you'll be happy in the world to come, because you will properly prioritize what's important and what's not important, and you'll focus your life to be productive and to be meaningful and to do what you need to do. So that's the Ezel Usher. In conclusion, I'll get back to this for a moment with a story, but let me finally finish off this fourth question that Ben Zoma asks. He says like this: Ezel Mechubad, who is one that is worthy to be honored? And here again, the conventional answer on the street would be, who is worthy? Maybe someone who got the Nobel Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, until it was given to Arafat. So that lowered tremendously the esteem of the Peace Prize to me. You might disagree with me, but that's my thinking. But you would say, Eza Mechubar, who is worthy to be honored? So one who got the Nobel Prize, who was Man of the Year on Time magazine, etc., etc. Says Ben Zoman, by now you should get what we call his schnit. I'm still waiting for a thumbs up for the Yiddish. Ezo, by now you should get his schnit. That Ezo Mechubad, he says, who is worthy to be honored? HaMechabed es Habriyos, one who honors all creatures, anything that was created. Meaning, he recognizes that if it was created by God, it deserves to be honored. Or in simpler terms, he honors everyone else. A person who honors everyone else is one who deserves to be honored. I want to come back and I will venture to say that he asks these four questions because if society and the individual starts to think like Ben Zoma, by really taking seriously and internalizing these four questions: who is wise, who is a gibar, who is strong, who is wealthy, and who deserves to be honored. If you change your way of approaching things based on these four answers, it'll change your way of thinking. In general, it'll make you and society a much healthier, better society. And you could elaborate on that on your own. Now, I want to come back with two other thoughts on the Ezo Osher, who is wealthy. Hasamech bechelko. Commentaries point out that this is who is wealthy, one who is content with their lot, only applies to material things. This does not apply to spiritual things. As the previous rabbi, I think, said that when it comes to spiritual things, one must always look at one who has more than them and try to improve. When it comes to material things, one should always look at one who has less than them and be happy with what they have. And they use the language that we say in the Aleinu L'Shabeach. We say Bashamayim Imal, that we should give praise to God who is above. He's the God above, Al Aretz Mitochas, and He is the God on earth here below. So they use a play on words, Bashamayim, on heavenly things, regarding heavenly things. Mimal, you should look at that which is above you, and those who have more than you. V'al ha'aretz, on earthly, materialistic things. Mitochas, look at those who are beneath you, under you. And then I want to conclude with the following message and lesson over here. So, before I do that, just quickly bear with me. I want to just quickly look if there's any questions that have been asked. So if there's any questions over here, please don't mind my sort of nose sticking in your face over here. If there's any questions that I've been asked, I want to just take a moment and try to address them. So I don't see any questions. I see some comments, but I don't see any questions. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, so I want to conclude with the following. Ezeu Oshir Hasameach Bechelko. I want to give another insight. And this is my insight based on a story that I just heard from Rabbi Shapsi Slavatitsky, but this is my insight. And I say that, when I say it's my insight, when it's from the Holy Commentaries, it's the Holy Commentaries. It's my insight, you can take it or leave it. So, Ezeu Oshir Hasameach Bechelko, who is happy, who is wealthy, one who is happy with their lot. I want to base it on the following. First, with a story. Rabbi Shapsi Slavatitsky put out a story last week of a fellow, a very wealthy fellow, who passed away by the name of Saul Teichman. Ich weiß nicht wer das ist. I don't know who this is. Saul Teichman. This Saul Teichman was an extremely generous person. He was very generous, he was very giving, and he would give, he was just kind. Sometimes they're givers, they give because they want a tax deduction, whatever it is, but he was just giving, not just monetarily, he was just a kind, giving person. And they asked him, why is he so exceptionally giving, beyond the ordinary? So he related the following story. He said that he is a Holocaust survivor. And when he was taken off the horrifying trip of the trains, arriving in Auschwitz, he would have to get in line. And the Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, known as Dr. Mengele, would be there, and he would look at you and he would decide whether you should go to the right or whether you should go to the left. The left, if I recall, meant you went to the gas chambers, and the right meant you went to hell, in terms of you went to the camp and you were given some chance of survival rather than straight to the gas chambers. He's standing on line. And he was born in 1925. He's standing on line, and he was on line to get to Dr. Mengele, and an older person that he just didn't know that was, wearing, that was obviously the helping was wearing prisoner garb, walks over to him and asks him, what year were you born? He says, I was born in 1927, sorry. I said 25. I was born in 1927. And the guy says to him, no, you were born in 1925. He says, I was born in 1927. He says, no, you were born in 1925. And he says it firmly. And he says it again. And then he asks him, what year were you born? So he didn't want to be confrontational. He said, I was born in 1925. So the guy says, good. And he asks him again and again. He asks him to repeat it several times. What year were you born? 1925. He comes up to the line and he's standing there before Mengele. And of course, you tremble when you come before Mengele. And Mengele asks him, what year were you born? And because this guy, so banged into his head that he was born in 1925, he responded and he said 1925. And Mengele puts his hand over his shoulder with a firm grab and says, go to the right. And he found out later, now would he have said 1927? He would have been too young, because you had to be, I think it was above 18 or something of that nature. I don't know the exact age. And that saved his life. And Mr. Teichman said the following. This was his conclusion. He says, I don't know who this older man was. He says, to me, he was my Eliyahu Hanavi, was my Elijah the prophet. He was my good angel. And the way I try to repay God Almighty for saving me and sending me this malach, this angel, is to be a malach, an angel of good whenever and to whomever I can. And therefore, I try, whether it's a kind word, a word of inspiration, financially, to be an angel for whoever I can. I think he said every single morning I wake up and I say, whose angel can I be today? Beautiful story. So I want to sort of connect that to our Mishnah and Ezeu Osher. The Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, has the following beautiful insight into something that we say 3 times a day as we finish the Shemona Esra. Sorry, no, we don't say it there, so let me take a step back. We say, there's a statement in the Mishnah that we say as an introduction to Pirkei Avot of every single chapter. We say like this: Kol Yisrael, every Jew, every member of Israelite, yesh lo chelek la'olam haba, has a part in the world to come. What does that mean, every person has a part in the world to come? Simply meaning is that every person will inherit the world to come after 120. But the Alter Rebbe, the Chabad Rebbe, first Chabad Rebbe, says this very beautiful interpretation. He says like this, and this is very poignant. He says that the Mishnah is not just telling us that every person has a place, a part in the world to come. It's not just like telling you some good news. You should know you have a part in the world to come. It's a call to your, and an inspiration for you to act. Thus, Meintus, what does that mean? He says, what does Olam Haba mean? What does the world to come mean? The world to come is your, whatever you have achieved, whatever part in the world, whatever part in society that you have bettered, that you have made better, that you have improved, that you have refined, that you have uplifted, that becomes your part, and that becomes your chelik l'olam haba. That's your world to come. That's your reward. That's your soul's pleasure. Your soul's pleasure is not some mystical, maybe that too, but that's not what we're talking about over here. It's not some I don't know. You'll be given some. You'll be able to. I don't know, sit and eat schmaltz herring all day, and that's your world to come, because that's your greatest delight. You'll have a delicious steak, a spiritual steak, the best steak. Chelik l'olam haba means every Jew has a chelik l'olam haba. What's that chelik l'olam haba? Your life's work in perfecting. That's the greatest pleasure and benefit and reward to your soul. So this is what the Mishnah also means. Ezeu Osher is truly wealthy. Is truly content. Hasameach bechelko, one who could be happy and say, I'm happy with my chelik, like chelik l'olam haba, it's the same word. He could say that I have been the angel today for anybody who I have come in contact with. I have uplifted, I have had a positive thing to say, I've helped, I've paid attention. I have been that angel. I have been someone who could say, Hasameach bechelko. Am I happy with my chelik that I am reserving for Olam Haba? Have I done what needs to be done to perfect and to improve and to uplift my chelik, my part? I will say this, and I'm sure all of you listen without hesitation. A person who at night puts his head down on his pillow and says, today I have made my chelik something worthwhile. I've been an angel, I've been a soul, which is even higher than an angel, to so many. I have done what I'm needed for, because I'm unique. This Mishnah says, Ezeu mechubad, who is honored, who is a chacham, one who learns from every person, because every person, you who are listening, me who's giving the class here, Rebel Friedman, I have something unique to give. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Every person here that's listening, that God created, means that God said, when you were born, on your birthday, God said, the world cannot continue without you. And you have something to contribute based on your social environment, based on your experience, based on your life's learning. And every single day you have to ask yourself, have you perfected your chelik? Have you gone ahead and been a positive force to everything and all that you have come in contact with? And if yes, then someach, and then you're truly wealthy. And that is the lesson for this Mishnah, and it's, I think, so apropos for the time that we're in now. When the chelik, our part, our social circle, our social environment, our chelik, as the Mishnah calls, our part, all the different details to our part, are under stress, are under duress. So for us to bring positivity to it and to refine it and to elevate it is so much more important. So let's do so. With Hashem's help, we have the power to do so. We learned this Mishnah. Torah gives us the koach to do so. And that's that. What else can I tell you? So that's the story. You should have a fantastic rest of the week. Thank you for listening. Please share these words of Torah and have success with your chelik in this world so that you could take it with you to Olam Haba. Everybody have a great day.